It turns out that no matter how bad the Orioles have looked all season, a series win over the Yankees will always cheer you up. We'll recap the rubber match coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast.
You are Locked On Orioles, your daily Baltimore Orioles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Orioles fans. Today is Thursday, May 1st, 2025, and welcome back into the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I'm your host, Connor Newcomb. And coming up on today's episode, we are going to recap the Orioles series clinching 5-4 win over the New York Yankees on Wednesday night. I'll get you the 5 things you need to know from that one, including a fantastic bullpen performance, a big swing from Ryan Mountcastle, and Félix Bautista looking fully healthy and fully like his 2023 self. Then we'll talk about Walter Pennington, an interesting left-handed reliever who the Orioles claimed off waivers earlier this week. And finally, speaking of that bullpen, Charlie Morton is officially in the Oriole bullpen, what that means for this pitching staff as a whole. But that's all coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast, which is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. So it was a good win for the Orioles Monday night against the Yankees. It was like, all right, they beat the Yanks. They looked good. And then it was another disastrous loss. Kyle Gibson gives up 4 home runs in the first inning. The Orioles lose 15-3 on Tuesday. I was recording in the 6th inning because I was so tired of it. But as I mentioned at the end of Wednesday's show, I said, hey, even as bad as that looked, the Orioles probably have the advantage in the pitching matchup on Wednesday. And all it takes is a win to win a series over the Yankees to close out a bad month of April on a good note, get the off day Thursday, and kind of reset yourself. And that is exactly what the Orioles did. Final score from Wednesday night in Baltimore, the Orioles 5 and the New York Yankees 4, as the O's win just their second series of the year, taking 2 of 3 from the Bronx Bombers at home this week. And I'm going to get you the 5 things you need to know from the Orioles series clinching victory on Wednesday night. The first thing you need to know is Cade Povich did continue the just rough beginnings to these games by Orioles starting pitchers. 2-run homer hit by Aaron Judge in the first inning, third batter of the game. It's 2-0 Yanks off the jump. And there's just been way too many games that have started like that. John Mioli wrote about it in the Baltimore Banner in a good story on Wednesday that just the Orioles have been playing from behind far too often this year, and it's affecting the offense as well. And he kind of connected it to, are they playing too far from behind in terms of their record in April to catch up from it? Now, that record looks a little bit better, right? They sit at 12-18 as they enter May, still in last place in the AL East. But it's just been deficit after deficit early in games. And for Cade Povich on Wednesday, it was just a frustrating thing to do. I understand that Aaron Judge is probably the best hitter in Major League Baseball. I understand that him against a left-handed pitcher like Povich, he is by far the best hitter against lefties in baseball. It's a terrible matchup for the young Orioles lefty. You have to figure Judge is going to hit him, and the Orioles did not get Judge out on Wednesday night. It's hard to do. But just the plan going in, it frustrates you. First pitch to Judge was perfect. 4-seam fastball on the inside corner for a called strike 1. The perfect way to pitch Aaron Judge as a left-hander. You've also got your fastball. You've got your changeup, which is good against righties. You've got your curveball, which works against righties. The pitch that doesn't work against righties is the sweeper. That is generally a pitch that left-handed pitchers across baseball don't throw to righties because that sweeper has a lot more horizontal straight across break. It makes it easier for an opposite-handed hitter to see. And Aaron Judge, he barely sees any lefty sweepers, and it's because of how well he sees them. This year, Judge is now 3 for 3 with a single, a double, and a homer against sweepers from left-handers. Last year, he was 3 for 7 with 3 home runs against sweepers from left-handers. Guys just don't throw that pitch because it's so easy for Judge to see. And I could understand if it was 3-2 or, Povich couldn't get his other pitches over. It was the 5th inning and he was trying to get Judge out a different way. It's the first inning. You're in your third batter. You still haven't even thrown him a curveball or a changeup. Your pitches that are much better against righties. And I understand that he wasn't trying to throw the sweeper right down the middle. That's where it ended up, and Judge blasted it for a 2-run homer. But the plan's got to be better. That is not the pitch to throw right there. You have so many more options, and it just puts you in a bad spot. And with all the struggles the Orioles rotation has had and the talent deficit they're at with their rotation because of so many injuries they have suffered, the way to combat that is to have a better plan. And Povich did settle in a bit, but that pitch to Judge is just not good process and not a good plan. And that concerns me because they're already behind the 8-ball before you get to the game planning. And a lot of times, your first time through an order is somewhat scripted by your catcher and your pitching coach coming together with the starter. You kind of know how you're going to attack guys the first time. And then the second and third times through the lineup, you kind of read their swings, read how the game is going, how your stuff is working, things like that. So that tells me a sweeper to Judge was part of the plan potentially for his first at-bat. That can't be part of the plan. And that's part of what is frustrating here. And the Orioles, Tomoyuki Sugano, who was great, 5 scoreless innings on Monday night in the win, snapped a streak of 16 consecutive games in which an Orioles starter had failed to get through 3 scoreless innings to begin the game, meaning an Orioles starter had given up a run in one of the first 3 innings in 16 consecutive games. You're playing from behind pretty much every game. The last time that an Oriole pitcher had gone 3 scoreless to start a game was Zach Eflin's last start before he went on the IL back on April 7th in Arizona. That's kind of telling of the part of this rotation. And Sugano stopped that streak on Monday. And then, of course, we know what happened to Gibson Tuesday, Povich Wednesday. The streak is back at 2. But to give credit to Cade Povich, he did settle back in this game, and he gave the Orioles a chance to win. It's not the greatest final line that he showed, but it's 4 2/3, 3 runs on 3 hits, 2 strikeouts, 3 walks, 2 homers, 87 pitches thrown by Povich. He also gave up a solo home run to Paul Goldschmidt in the 4th. That was the other run he allowed, and the Yankees hit him hard, and, he wasn't able to get even 5 innings into this game, but there was some more promising swing and miss stuff. This was not the great start, 6 2/3, 1 run he had his last time out against the Nats. This was not that at all. But the stuff looked better at times. He got 11 whiffs. He had a 31% swing and miss rate in this game. That was his highest in any start since September 9th of 2024. So in terms of swings and misses, this was his best start of this season. Obviously wasn't overall his best start, but it was better than what the Orioles have been getting from a lot of their pitchers. And it is unfortunate that 4 2/3, 3 runs is like, yeah, I'll take it compared to what we've been seeing from Orioles starters this year. But it's a give and take, right? It's okay, but we need to be striving for something better. That's just the situation of the Orioles rotation right now. But he gave the O's a chance to win. And the second thing you need to know from this one is that, Aaron Judge jumped on a good matchup against Cade Povich, as did Paul Goldschmidt. The Orioles also jumped on a good matchup, really facing a bad right-handed pitcher in this game. I don't think the Yankees want to have 38-year-old Carlos Carrasco in their rotation right now. But with injuries to Garrett Cole and Marcus Stroman, that's where they're at the moment. They brought in Carrasco on a minor league deal. He made the team. He's in the rotation. He hasn't, it's been a great story, him returning from cancer, but just hasn't been very good the last couple of years with Cleveland and with the Yankees and others. But the Orioles took advantage of this matchup. A righty who's struggling against this lefty-heavy lineup, and they scored 4 runs in the second inning off Carrasco to take the lead right back, down 2-0, immediately up 4-2 an inning later. And it has been a while since the Orioles have bounced back like this after giving up runs early. April 12th, 18 days prior, was the last time the Orioles came back to win a game in which they trailed by 2 or more runs. They have not had a lot of comeback wins, and when they're down by more than 1, it basically hasn't happened at all. Only twice this year, before Wednesday, have the Orioles won a game in which they were trailing by 2 or more runs at any point. And the only other time they kind of immediately responded to a deficit was March 29th, the 3rd game of the season, the game the Orioles won in Toronto. They went down by 2 in the 3rd inning and immediately put up a 4 spot in the top of the 4th to take the lead back, and a lead they would hold through that game to win it. That's the only other time they've done something like this. And on Wednesday, give up 2 in the first, score 4 in the second, and almost immediately go right back on top. That is the fight and the fire we want to see from this Orioles offense that we just haven't seen. And they've had some games where they've scored some late and kept themselves in it. But the ability and the talent of this offense to strike right back, that's what we've seen a lot of the last 2 years. And we just haven't seen it this year. That was a fantastic sign to see on Wednesday. And yes, they only scored one more run for the rest of the game. A Jackson Holiday RBI fielder's choice got one across in the bottom of the fifth. That was all 5 of their runs. But they also really haven't been scoring 5 runs. And you know what? Like, 5 runs is kind of the magic number. It's been the magic number for the Orioles to win games this year. It's generally the magic number for teams across the board. You want to get to 5 runs. The Orioles scored 5 on Wednesday. That was the first time they'd scored that many since April 19th, the 9-5 win over the Reds. It has been a while since they even got to 5. So I think overall, really good signs from the offense. Ramon Urias had a go-ahead homer in the second off Carrasco, just his second long ball of the year. That was a good sign because he's going to have third base on lockdown with Jordan Westburg on the 10-day injured list with that hamstring issue. And then a great sequence after the Urias homer. Gunnar Henderson smashes a single. He steals second, and Adley singles into center field to score Gunnar to make it 4-2 to get a hit with runners in scoring position. Orioles haven't had a lot of those either lately. Just a really good full offensive inning for the Orioles in the fourth, just jumping on Carrasco. And the third thing you need to know is the biggest swing from that inning came from Ryan Mountcastle. He opened the scoring with a 2-run homer off Carrasco in the second to tie the game at 2, got a hanging breaking ball on the inside corner, just turned on it over the new left field wall for a 2-run shot. Just Mountcastle's second home run of the year. We're on the last day of April, and Ryan Mountcastle has 2 home runs. That is not what you need from Mountcastle. Now, it was great to see him get his second homer. His other one also went over that wall in left back on, what was it, April, it's been a while. April 13th, I think, was the last home run for Ryan Mountcastle. It has been a while. And it was also his first hit since April 23rd. That broke an 0 for 18 stretch that Mountcastle was in. He just has not been good this year. I mean, even after the home run on Wednesday, he's hitting 194 with a 541 OPS on the season. You just, from a quote-unquote slugging first baseman, you cannot have those stats through the first month of the season. It was his first extra base hit since April 20th. I mean, he's been hitting the ball pretty hard in general, but he is chasing out of the zone a ton, way more than he's done the last couple of years. His at-bats right now, until the homer, have just been non-competitive. He's swinging at every breaking ball outside the zone. He's getting himself out, and it's been a really, really tough watch because he's sometimes when you get yourself out with strikeouts, but you combine it with a lot of power, you can be a playable hitter. He's not combining it with power. That's why it was so good to see the home run on Wednesday night. Now, the big issue we had with Mountcastle last year is that he had the second lowest pull rate in baseball. Pulling fly balls is the way to hit home runs and the way to do damage. Ryan Mountcastle has that kind of power, and whether it was the wall, whether it was vertigo, whether it was struggles with his swing, whatever, he had a 28% pull rate last year, second lowest in baseball. He is up from 28 to 45% on his pull rate this year. That was a pulled fly ball that he hit for the homer on Wednesday. That is a good sign. And he's hitting the ball hard, but he's not pulling the ball in the air enough. Despite a 45% pull rate, he has just a 21% pulled fly ball rate. That's basically right around league average for that stat. You need to be up towards 30% and above to be a big-time home run hitter, and he's still not doing that. One of the issues is he's chasing so much out of the zone, he's either striking out or he's rolling over to the left side. Yes, he's pulling the ball, but he's hitting a lot of soft ground balls to third base and shortstop. It's still not going to cut it for Ryan Mountcastle right now. He's got to get going because Kobe Mayo's swinging it well. He is looming in AAA to be the exact same player, a right-handed hitting, power-hitting first baseman that's going to be ready to take over for Ryan Mountcastle whenever the Orioles want to make that move. And if Mountie doesn't get going, hopefully the home run gets him going, like he's going to be in danger because he's just given the O's no production so far this year. Now, the fourth thing you need to know from this win on Wednesday is that the bullpen was outstanding once Cade Povich left this game. This bullpen, it's had a little bit of issues lately, probably just because they've been overworked, but they have really kept the Orioles in some games and pitched super, super well. It's been a great unit so far this year. And once Povich came out of the game, the Orioles used 6 relievers who combined for 5 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, 6 Ks, and 2 walks. I wish an Orioles starter would post that line, 5 1/3 innings of 1-run ball. I'd take that every single time out, but that is what they got from the bullpen. Brandon Hyde from the 5th inning when he pulled Cade Povich to bring in Sir Anthony Dominguez to face Aaron Judge. He just mixed and matched for the rest of the game, and it was good enough. They got in, a little bit of an issue. They did give up a run in the 7th that was charged to Keegan Aiken because he walked the leadoff batter. but it was all pretty good stuff. And it was also very cool to see Brian Baker come in that 8th inning. Like, that is a spot that Baker really hasn't truly been in this year. It is the first time Brian Baker has pitched this season with a lead in the 8th inning. And it wasn't just any lead. This was a 1-run lead that he was protecting in the 8th. And he did his job. Even after a leadoff walk, he goes pop out, strike out to end the inning. He went behind 3-0 on Trent Grisham, then threw him a couple of backdoor sliders and got him to swing through a nasty changeup to end the inning. Excuse me, not Trent Grisham. I believe that was Cabrera that he was facing, but still a nasty changeup to end the inning. And the big part of it was because he came back to get that hitter, it meant Judge was due up 4th instead of 3rd in the 9th inning, and meant he didn't have to hit. And that was big for Baker to be in that spot. He's been the good 5th and 6th inning close game guy so far this year. He deserved that chance in the 8th inning. It was his turn in the bullpen. He came up and he got it done. And it was impressive because of the circumstances. Baker was warming 3 different times in Monday's game and never came in. Then, because the Orioles were so bad, he had to pitch the 9th inning of a 15-2, or I guess it was a 14-2 game at the time on Tuesday. And the very next night, he has to come in and protect a 1-run lead in the 8th against the Yankees. And he came through. He has been a revelation for this bullpen this year with his roster spot squarely on the bubble coming into spring training, and really cool to see him get that 8th inning chance and thrive in it on Wednesday. And the 5th and final thing you need to know from the Orioles' 5-4 win over the Yankees on Wednesday night to clinch a series win is that Félix Bautista closed it out again, looking perfect and truly looking like his 2023 self. He was just as nasty as he was on Monday when he went 1-2-3. I mean, some filthy 90 to 91 mile per hour splitters with more horizontal movement. That pitch looks arguably better than it did at times 2 years ago, which seems crazy to say. The fastball command is there. The splitter command is there. He threw his 2 hardest pitches of the year with 2 outs, nobody on, 1-run game. Aaron Judge waiting on deck. You got to get this guy. You can't let Judge come to the plate. And he goes 99.3 miles an hour for strike 1 to Trent Grisham. Hardest pitch of the year. Filthy splitter falls off the table that Grisham swings through. And then 99.2 miles an hour up and away that Grisham whiffs through for strike 3 to end the game. Felix was fired up. Adley was fired up. He is back. He is back to his 2023 self. And that is just awesome to see this quickly coming off of that Tommy John surgery. And the Orioles get the win. And hey, you can lose a game 15-3, but that's only one game. And if you win the other 2, guess what? You won the series over the division leader. Hopefully that is an end to April on a really good note for this Orioles team. But the O's, they also brought in another player who could potentially help this bullpen that's been so good so far. That is Walter Pennington. Comes in on waivers. Give you the scouting report on the lefty who has joined the O's, at least in the AAA level, coming up next. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to go. Dive into hundreds of premium titles, including EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty, as easily as you stream your favorite shows. And how do you game when you're not in front of your main setup? Well, hotel stays, family visits, or even just the bedroom, Fire TV Stick 4K makes it possible to keep playing from almost anywhere. That might be the best part. And you can stream a whole lot of content, Netflix, YouTube, and beyond with that Fire TV Stick 4K. So head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd generation, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd generation, and Fire TV Cube 3rd generation. So the Orioles bullpen was fantastic in the win on Wednesday night. 5 1/3 innings of 1-run ball. And they added another piece to that bullpen, at least to the mix in AAA, who could help them at some point this year, as the Orioles claimed left-handed pitcher Walter Pennington off waivers from the Texas Rangers. So who is Walter Pennington? Well, he is a 27-year-old left-handed pitcher who went undrafted in that shortened 2020 draft that was only 5 rounds long, signed with the Royals as an undrafted free agent out of Division II Colorado School of Mines, a big-time engineering school. Shout out to my buddy Will, who now has just moved to Denver and now works at the Colorado School of Mines. But Pennington was a starter in college, but as soon as the Royals signed him, they immediately turned him into a reliever in the minor leagues. And he got up to AAA with the Royals last year and was great in AAA. 59 and 2/3 innings in AAA Omaha, a 2.26 ERA, a fantastic 33% strikeout rate to an 8% walk rate that's below the league average in AAA. And those great stats earned him his major league debut with the Kansas City Royals on July 5th of last year. It was only one game, and then he was sent back down to the minors. And then he was involved in a deadline deal sent to the Texas Rangers in the trade for starting pitcher Michael Lorenzen at last year's deadline. And the Rangers said, hey, we'll take this guy. Let's bring him back to the big leagues. That stuff looks really good. So he was activated by Texas on August 5th and was in their bullpen basically until the final week of the season. And in the majors last year, Pennington was pretty good. 18 innings between the Royals and the Rangers, had a 3.00 ERA. 20% strikeout rate, a little below league average. A 13% walk rate was a bit concerning, but he showed some length. He went 2 or more innings 3 times for the Rangers down the stretch, including one start that he made as kind of a 3-inning opener. But he was optioned to AAA by the Rangers to begin the 2025 season and is not pitched in a minor league or major league game this year, which is kind of concerning. You're like, is there an injury? But MLB Trade Rumors actually reported when the Orioles made the waiver claim earlier this week that Pennington is not injured. That's what a lot of people thought because he hadn't even pitched in AAA. He was in rookie ball with the Royals rookie ball affiliate in the Arizona Complex League, basically, according to MLB Trade Rumors, working on mechanics at extended spring training. So he was mechanically working on something where the Rangers weren't ready to put him on a minor league roster, but the Rangers needed to open a 40-man roster spot. So on April 23rd, they designated Pennington for assignment, and the Orioles claimed him 5 days later. Now, what does his stuff look like? Let's start with what he threw at the big league level in 2024 in those 18 innings. It's a heavy slider usage, used about 41% of the time, throws at 84 miles an hour, and gets a lot of swing and miss. A 41% whiff rate. That is really, really good at the big league level, and a 48% whiff rate in AAA last year on that slider. Now, Pennington calls it a, quote, 0-0 slider, which kind of means it doesn't have big horizontal or big vertical movement. It certainly moves, but it's not anything crazy either way. It has more even movement on that slider. So it doesn't have this big movement, but it gets big swing and miss. And Pennington, there was a good article in Fangraphs by David Laurila in his Sunday Notes column from August 25th of last year that you should go check out, where he talked to Pennington. Pennington was kind of like, I'm not exactly sure why my slider plays. And Pennington's a smart guy. He's got a mechanical engineering degree. He kind of understands a lot of the data that goes into pitching, but he's almost like, it's not the movement, it's more the deception. He said hitters have told him when he's faced them, especially in spring training and on the backfields, that he hides the ball really well. And it's kind of the deception of his lower slot delivery from the left side that makes that slider good despite not having elite movement. And guys just can't hit it. And it's a really, really nasty pitch for him. Now, he also throws a sinker, threw it about 30% of the time last year. It's 92 miles an hour, not big velocity from the left side, but MLB hitters hit just 167 against his sinker. AAA hitters hit just 129 against his sinker last year. It just gets a ton of ground balls, and he locates it well. And then there's also a cutter. It's got smaller movement than his slider. It's also 89 miles an hour versus the 84 on the slider. Big leaguers hit it well. He throws it a lot to righties, but they hit it at 333 last year. He's also tossed in a 4-seam fastball and a changeup at times, but it's really mostly a 3-pitch mix. So it'll be interesting to see what the Orioles want to do with him if they want to add more of that changeup. They like their lefties to have good changeups, and Pennington has at least flashed one at times. Now, how will he fit in with the Orioles? Well, he has 2 minor league option years remaining. So the Orioles immediately when they claimed him sent him to AAA Norfolk. I am going to do like a very quick check right now. I don't think he has pitched in a game in Norfolk yet. Again, he was claimed on Monday. The Tides played Tuesday and Wednesday, but he is in the Tides bullpen for now. And as long as he has done his extended spring work, he will go to AAA to kind of make his minor league debut for the season. Yeah, he has not appeared in a game. Actually, looks like he was optioned to Aberdeen to begin. So maybe just because he hasn't pitched very much, he's going to start in Aberdeen, throw a couple games there, and then go to AAA Norfolk. So he has not pitched quite yet, it looks like, but he just adds to the Orioles pitching depth, especially for left-handed relievers. And the Orioles kind of need that because, there's still questions about how big of a role Keegan Akin can have. And Gregory Soto's been good, but a little shaky recently. And we know Cionel Perez still holding a bullpen spot has just been terrible. And they may need to call up some more left-handed relievers from AAA. I mean, they already did it over the weekend with Grant Wolfram, who was called up and pitched in 2 games in Detroit, and then was sent back down to AAA to be another lefty that the Orioles could potentially use. And Luis Gonzalez, the lefty who they added to their 40-man roster as a reliever this offseason, he got hurt. He got released. It might be like a season-ending injury for him. So I think Pennington, who has that big league experience, he's going to pitch for the Orioles at some point this year. And honestly, if they at some point finally do let go of Perez, it's going to be either Pennington or Grant Wolfram that they call up immediately to add, a third left-hander into that major league bullpen. And for a guy like Pennington, who has had big league success, has an interesting pitch, they could go to him. He kind of reminds me of Ryan Yarbrough, who pitched well for the Yankees out of the bullpen on Monday against the O's. It's a little more velocity and some more whiffs from the left side than Yarbrough has, but it's that funky sidearm, deceptive delivery with a lot of sliders that just keeps hitters off balance. I'm intrigued by Pennington. I'm excited for him to get to the big leagues this year and potentially help out the Oriole bullpen. But speaking of the Oriole bullpen, they do have a new member that was added on Wednesday, but it wasn't a trade or a waiver claim or a minor league call-up. It was Charlie Morton. We'll talk about the move the Orioles finally decided to make with his terrible start to the year. That's coming up next to finish off the show. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Do you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Well, between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO gives you full visibility and control over your finances. And Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. The best part is it's all in one convenience for Monarch Money. So instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan your long-term goals. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. So we finish off today's episode with a move that the Orioles made that has kind of been in the works for a while. And that is the Orioles, at least for now, has officially moved Charlie Morton to the bullpen. Now, Morton was supposed to be the starter in, I believe, the second game of the doubleheader in Detroit on Saturday. And then Keegan Akin was announced as the starter briefly, but just as the opener. Akin went about 2 1/3. He looked really good. And the Orioles turned it over to Charlie Morton to be the bulk pitcher to see if a different role would help him out. It didn't really. He gave up 3 runs. He wasn't very good, and he threw 80 pitches on Saturday. So we figured, okay, he's still in the rotation. There's not really anyone else to go to at this point. But then with Kyle Gibson getting absolutely socked and the Orioles using pitcher after pitcher on Tuesday night and that 15-3 loss, Charlie Morton started warming up in the bullpen. And he came out of the pen, and he went 2 1/3 with no earned runs. And he threw 43 pitches out of the bullpen, and the Orioles lost to the Yankees on Tuesday night. And I was kind of unsure on Wednesday's episode what that meant. It was probably his throw day where guys will throw a bullpen anyway between starts. So it was like, that's the time to use a starter out of the pen. But also it's kind of like, well, it wasn't 15, 20 pitches. It was 43 pitches. And I was like, he's scheduled to start Friday against Kansas City. I'm not sure he's going to be ready to start Friday if he's throwing 43 pitches against the Yankees on Tuesday night. And apparently that was the Orioles' plan. He's going to be in the bullpen for a little bit. Now, we know he's been terrible, right? It has not been good. He actually, with the outing on Tuesday, lowered his ERA to 9.45 through 26 2/3 innings for the Orioles this year. I mean, he had been just a consistent good starter for years and years and years, and seemingly has just fallen off a cliff. His stuff is still there, but the command is gone, and it fell off a cliff. Morton's been pretty introspective when he's talked about all the struggles that he has had. But the Orioles didn't really replace him with a starter. They're going to put Morton in the bullpen as the long man, and they're once again going to have 4 starting pitchers and 9 relievers at the moment because they have off days. They have the off day today. They also have the off day on Monday after the Royals series. So that allows them to go with just 4 starters for the time being. It allows them to go with Povich, Kramer, Sugano, and Gibson for a little bit here because they wouldn't need a 5th starter until May 10th. So Brandon Hyde did say that Morton could go back into the rotation at some point. I mean, they I guess they could have DFA'd him because it's been so bad, but there's really nowhere else to turn right now for a 5th starting pitcher. So you might as well just put him in the bullpen for a bit when you don't need him for 2 weeks, see how he works out of there. You know, it was okay on Tuesday, maybe continue to go at least okay if he's like the mop-up man and the long reliever for a bit. But on May 10th, the O's will need a starter again, and it's possible they could just go back to Morton on May 10th. Now, the hope is that Zach Eflin could be ready. He's throwing some bullpens. Maybe he's ready by May 10th. Now, if you do the math on Brandon Young, who was optioned back to AAA on April 26th, unless my math is wrong, he wouldn't be available to come back up per the CBA rules until May 11th. So they actually wouldn't have him on the 10th unless that math is wrong. Could potentially be that he can come up on the 10th. So that could be the plan. But if not, it could be like a Morton throws 3 or 4 innings and then a bullpen game if Zach Eflin's not back. Maybe Chase McDermott or Trevor Rogers have made enough rehab starts by then to be ready, but that's doesn't seem probable at this point. It's just kind of, that's the state of the Orioles rotation right now. It was the right move to make to put Morton in the pen for a bit. If you can at least skip his starts, which they will do. It was just, he wasn't even giving the Orioles a chance to win when he was out there. They've lost all 7 games that he has pitched in this year. There had to be something done. And for now, he's going to go to the bullpen and see if that can change. If it doesn't, he's going to be off this roster. If it does change something, maybe they find a home for him in the pen. You know, he has pitched in relief in his career before, not a lot in the regular season, but in the postseason, he did it. Remember, Charlie Morton closed out the World Series. Or was the World Series? No, maybe not the World Series. He closed out the ALCS against, maybe it was the World Series, actually. I think, you know what? Scratch that again. He closed out the World Series in 2017 against the Dodgers in relief, like through 3+ innings in that game. So he's done it before. Hopefully this move can help him find something, because it clearly has not gone well, but at least the O's are making some sort of change, because they just cannot send him back out there to start games at this point. And one of the reasons why they could move to the pen and go to 4 starters, because they have that off day here on Thursday. After winning the series against the Yankees, off day Thursday before the Royals come into town on Friday. But I still have an episode coming up on Friday. It will include a brief series preview against the Royals, but we kind of know the Royals already. The O's have already played them in Kansas City, lost 2 of 3. We're going to take a look back at this month of April. It was not a good one for the Orioles. They've got a 12-18 record, but if you just take the record in April, it's 9-16. That's not very good. And I'm going to look into, okay, it's been bad, but tomorrow I'm going to give you the 3 reasons why the Orioles can still turn this thing around. We'll take the positive spin on tomorrow's episode. That is coming up on Friday. But until then, I'm Connor Newcomb, and this has been the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.